turns around and says, "Oh, I know what you're going to be doing now, Simon. You're going to be teasing us with, with Copilot." But it really, it's like a house. It sells itself.
Welcome back to another episode of Blue Square Security. As you've just heard there, we're talking to Simon Strain, who is a Customer Success Account Manager, or a CSAM. And as you heard, we're talking a little bit about the AI offering Copilot from Microsoft. But really, the focus of the conversation is the benefit that his role brings to a Microsoft customer. So without further ado, welcome to this month's episode of Blue Square Security and Simon Strain as the CSAM. Thank you so much. All right, welcome back to another episode of Blue Square Security. Today we've been joined with a CSAM, Simon Strain, who's also out of Atlanta. And we're going to be talking a little bit today about Microsoft support and what a CSAM brings to the customer account. So, Simon, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, let's start with, tell us a little bit about who Simon is. Let's get a little bit of background. I mentioned that you're here in the Atlanta area with me, and then get into a little bit about the CSAM role. Who do you serve? Is it enterprise customers? Is it SMB? Is it all over the lot? And are there customers that have a CSAM and customers that do not? Kind of explain the difference there.
Yeah, so been at Microsoft for 2 years now, just over 2 years. I come from around probably about 20 years worth of IT experience working within the IT organizations of large enterprises across Europe, from Bermuda, then here to the US back in 2009. So 15 years I've been here, but yeah, it's gone very, very quickly. So with that, I've really learned a lot through my journey in terms of just working within the IT department of various organizations. And there's obviously the cloud took its journey being really part of an implementation team at my previous organization that really kind of gave me the wealth of knowledge that I needed. So coming into Microsoft was very different in terms of, I'm now on a service provider type side, working for a tech company here at Microsoft. So what does that enable? Well, that just enables me to reflect on my past experiences, really, I suppose, things that happened that really allowed me to come on this side and really understand Microsoft in a different way. So that's kind of a bit of my background, being here for 2.5 years, as I said. Now, in terms of a CSAM, what does a CSAM really do? Well, I have a saying. I say everybody at Microsoft really carries this Microsoft spirit behind them, and with that behind the CSAMs, they obviously carry that too. I think many people do. Everybody is very approachable here, but really, I think what the CSAM does, it really gives the sort of face of Microsoft approach to things. I think Microsoft is a very, very big engine that has obviously a very, very large sort of technology stack, and with that, the CSAM is able to manipulate those avenues and corridors that to the outside world are really kind of cumbersome and like a bit of a black hole, really. So I think leading on from there, really, what does that enable for the customer? Again, it creates that face of Microsoft. Just to really bring that value. What can we bring? What can we do to help you? What can we do to help you proactively? The role being a CSAM is as big and wide as we need it to be. And I think that's why I really enjoy it, firstly. And secondly, I know I'm very successful at it. And I think, just building those relationships with not only internal resources such as yourself, Greg, and you, Michael. I know we've worked on various things in the past, and we've shared accounts as well. It just embarks on a journey, really, that ultimately brings the customer return on investment around certainly the unified contract.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, you mentioned the breadth of what Microsoft as an entity represents, and it's so apparent when you get in as an employee of where you can go, who you can speak to, when you can speak to them, how do you find them, and all these things you kind of take for granted when you're at a company that might be a little bit smaller. But when you get here, it really is a large company, and it can be daunting at times. So if you flip that on its head and kind of put yourself in the position of a customer, they're probably having the same type of, experience of, all right, well, I need to talk to somebody that knows this technology and they support it and this geo, and that can be a daunting task. So I would imagine that a CSAM brings a very clear line of value just from navigating the world of Microsoft, but then also helping people kind of connect those dots and getting the dialogue from multiple teams put together in one place. Value is very evident in the role. Does that mean that every account within Microsoft has a CSAM? Is that something that we apply to every account, or is that structured in a different manner?
We'd like to do that, but obviously unified contracts come at a cost, right? And that is based aligned. Sorry, that cost is aligned with consumption. As a result of that, yeah, it's obviously a sales pitch that really echoes return on investment. And to your point of what you said, we really bring the light as a team. I reside in the South OU, and speaking to my peers and speaking with my manager, it's what you put in, you get out. And I always want my customers to renew. Why? Because I know how tough the support process will be without us. Not having a CSAM, they will be heavily dependent on their AE and their ATS. ATS stands for Account Technology Strategist. AE is Account Executive. And really, the wheel, not all the wheels are there. It's like a clock, right? I like to use my analogy. So if there's one piece missing from the clock, it's not going to work as well. It may work. It may slow down with regards to time and what have you. It may be faster. I don't know. Probably, but certainly within the Microsoft realm and the CSAM and the unified agreement, it really kind of brings the value where it enhances our relationship, but also brings the energy and certainly the complete package together to really bring that return on investment behind us. And again, our technology stack, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
It's a real fun role. Whatever you put in, you get out. I'm really a big proponent of really bringing trust to the customer. Trust is the most important thing. Being authentic at the same time is really important. Remaining as humble as I can. I just try and listen. I think a lot of our customers sometimes are frustrated with things. We live in a frustrating world where things don't always necessarily work in our way. A lot of our customers in the major space, which is the customers that I support, some of them are publicly owned, so they have various mechanisms driving them as an org, but also for us to understand that brings the value where essentially I wear two hats. I wear a Microsoft hat and I wear my customer's t-shirt kind of thing. So I'm working for two organizations, and I really try and instill myself or push myself into those arenas of being at customer sites, having a badge to be on site, and really just growing those relationships to know that I'm here for them, and I have the keys that we need to really get into Microsoft and understand who we need to find. And once you start building your sort of, I like to call it, it's like a relational database. It's relationship driven. That's how we work. I know the people that are tools in my toolbox that I need for certain topics, certain conversations. And some of them are English here in the US, some of them are European, some of them are American. It's just nice. We have a wide spread of just inclusivity here as well, which, as far as I work, it's really important as well.
No, wholeheartedly. So you're not obviously only talking security with your customers. I mean, you're talking the whole breadth of the account. How often are customers coming to you with cybersecurity concerns or cybersecurity needs, or how often is cybersecurity the focal point of topic of conversation with customers?
Well, I try and force it to be a topic of conversation because, as far as I'm concerned, it's zero trust, firstly, which is something that we live by. And as a result of that, what does it mean? Well, technology is changing daily. Threat actors are changing by the minute. So, we need to keep those doors locked in the right way, not locked fully, or, well, I suppose locked is the best way to describe it, but protected is probably a better word. So threat actors come up regularly, and the DART team, detection and rapid threat team, they are here to support us as customers and us as Microsoft, and they are very willing to do what needs to be done to really, again, protect what needs to be protected.
Yeah.
Yeah, and expanding that, I know the DART team, Microsoft has gone through a very large reorg, which again is going to bring even more value to the customer, both from a proactive standpoint and reactive standpoint.
No, big time.
I think being as proactive as we can be in the security space is only going to work wonders, ultimately, to prevent that threat actor from coming in.
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael, you were gonna say something.
No, you're fine. So along those lines, you're obviously dealing with big customers. There's some of them have a lot of Microsoft tools, some of them have not a lot of Microsoft tools. How do you ensure that customers are making the most out of what they have with our cybersecurity tools and services?
Yeah, so I think it's really important to give the customer what they need, certainly in that sort of authentic, sort of vulnerable way. And with that, we have the unified contract, and with that comes, when the contract is negotiated, the negotiation falls on a number of topics. So you can obviously customize how many support hours you need, how many support hours you need in a way where you have a CSAM. We have what we call SDM hours. Those SDM hours are structured in a way where we will align X amount of hours based on what we feel is needed. The level of support when it comes to the security stack is unlimited. So obviously that's great for the customer. But focus more on the security side. I really within any contract that we're sort of negotiating and discussing, it's always good to have some form of security specialist assigned to the account. So with that, you can complement that with hours. So what we have are a bucket of hours that that come at cost, that can be engineered and added to the support or the unified support contract. And those proactive credits will be known as a package that are assigned, and there'll be a number of hours that are agreed based on whatever the customer is wanting to spend. So when it comes to aligning with DART, well, not so much DART in this case, but when it comes to aligning myself with the security specialist, we can consume those hours, those hours being those proactive credits, in a way where we can look for specific value-based deliveries. We can look for just ways that we can utilize those credits to really bring the value that the customer needs. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I went around the houses there a little bit, but I wanted you to have a sort of more of a thorough understanding.
No, that was perfect.
No, yeah, perfect.
So when it comes to your role, we've got customers that have chosen not to have the level of contract that includes somebody of your expertise.
Yeah, so the unified, they opt out on the unified agreement.
Yeah, so if there's a customer out there that's maybe wavering on whether or not to include that or not include it, what's the one area that you've seen over the last couple of years where you can say, I've seen the most value here. This is what my role was designed to do. This is where I bring the most value. Is there an incident or something that happens more often than not that you bring to the table that you could talk to that type of customer and say, this is why we're in existence? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. So last year, one of my customers experienced a threat actor. As a result, DART contacted me straight away. Again, the detection and rapid threat team, and they informed us of what was happening. Certainly myself, the customer had no idea. So I then went to the customer and we started triaging. I really was the incident manager, and I drove that to a place where the customer felt as though they had more of a grip on things. It came to a surprise. But as a result, my value came into the room where I was notified. I instantly contacted my resources over, well, I like to call them my peers over on the customer side, and get the ball rolling. And that was one example. Another example would be where I always try and include myself in MTC events, Microsoft Technology Centers, and obviously we can engage with the customer, and we can engage on any specific technology vertical that we want to, that obviously is going to bring value for the customer based on what their objectives are. So I've always been involved in the MTCs. It's really important just really to get to know the customer more. At those events, they will bring business leadership. They will bring other business leaders that you may not necessarily be able to meet with on a day-to-day basis outside of IT. But really, what did that generate? Well, it allowed me to speak in front of these people. And there's always usually about 15 to 20 people at those events, to really spread the word in terms of who I am, what I do, and again, brings value to the customer to know that, okay, so we have a unified contract, we have support, we have a contact we can go to. And I always spread it like butter. I am the face of Microsoft. And that really gets the wheels turning. It livens things up a little bit, knowing that they're not on their own and it's not a black hole.
Yeah, nobody wants to feel alone. I mean, that's
So,
the beauty of your role, right?
Exactly, yeah. So they're really the two real big sort of, I would say, pillars that I've certainly brought value. I'm sure there's more. I've been here 2 years. I work with some of my peers that have been at Microsoft in this role for 10 plus years. So yeah, that's what I've learned so far.
No, that's awesome.
So we've done quite a few of these podcasts, and I don't think we've gone one yet without talking about AI. Especially with I don't know the number of hours because I'm really bad at math, but with Security Copilot or Copilot for Security coming out, what are you hearing from your customers? You know, you're dealing with them every day around AI, even if it's M365 Copilot for Security, some of the benefits that they're kind of starting to see.
So I really like to sell stuff. So for me, I absolutely love using Microsoft 365 Copilot. Why? First of all, it helps my day job. It helps me certainly, and I know that I'm using it on a very, very sort of amateur level, but the biggest tool and the biggest thing out of it that I like is how I can record meetings, and it summarizes, and every single prompt that I put in, it gives an answer typically. I think just being able to go onto a call, as I do, and just ask the audience whether they mind being recorded, and always they know what I'm going to do because I've sort of built this rapport with certainly my customers, even new customers, like, okay, you're recording, that's fine. And I'll then express in terms of why. And why is that? Well, it allows me to be more present on the call as opposed to sat here making notes like I could be doing now. In fact, are we recording this, guys? And with that, an hour and a half of writing meeting minutes for an hour-long call that I have monthly with each of my customers allows me to find peace in myself, right? Sure, I can find something else to do with that hour, but as per my manager is always saying, make sure you're getting out, making sure you're getting fresh air. So what do I do during that time? I go for a run. I'm a really big runner. So that hour and a half is reduced to 15 minutes of meeting minutes. Again, Copilot isn't going to deliver and put on my desktop exactly what I'm going to relay to the customer based on that call. I fine tune what it's created, so it creates a foundation that allows me to then expand. So it's got to a point now of one of my customers. There's a lady there in the name of Kelly. She always turns around and says, "Oh, I know what you're going to be doing now, Sam. You're going to be teasing us with Copilot." But it's like a house. It sells itself, and within this realm of how I'm talking, it saves me time. And for me, being able to save time out of my day brings, it's a priceless investment. So yeah, I'm thankful for Microsoft certainly giving me that benefit, to certainly use it, to consume it, but also share that share that love essentially, because again, it speaks for itself. On the security Copilot piece, yeah, the wheels are certainly spinning. 1st of April is around the corner, so for me, that's going to be a day of again spreading the word. I want to learn more. I'm going to sit down with you, Greg, and learn more in terms of what can I be sharing with the customer on top of what I'm sharing today by giving my Microsoft 365 demos. What other demos can I be bringing when it comes to security from an end user standpoint? Just thinking about that. There's so much happen. There's so much happening behind the scenes when it comes to security. What don't we know? What can we be sharing with our customers? What can we be doing? Like, I don't know. Again, we're human. It's security today, or up until the 1st of April, is going to be. It's today. It's human driven. When AI is released in a way where it is driven in a completely different mindset, it's very exciting.
And it's, for a lack of better terms, and at the end of the day, it's cool. I mean,
of course,
the way you explained it, saving a little bit of time for you at work, which then equates to some personal time, which is really that work-life balance. Ever since we've been given access to Copilot, however long that's been, I think it's well over a year now. I don't know if there's been a day that I haven't used it. I think I've used it every day in some form or fashion. And then to kind of speak to your point about the Copilot for security, it's very similar in the sense that if you look at just the high level stats, there is a global shortage of security professionals. And one of its main selling points, and like you said, it kind of sells itself, is that if you've got a smaller security team, you equip them with this AI and you're upskilling these folks. So if you've got a tier 1, guy or gal, you give them access to Copilot, and now maybe they're a level 1.5, or maybe if they're already upskilling on their own, maybe they go from a 1 to a level 2. It really does multiply the people that you have. It gives them their time back, and it kind of gives them binoculars to break through some of the noise that comes through. Because when we start talking about security, just in general, essentially what we're talking about are signals and libraries and code and all the noise and logs that comes from all these various tools. And this has got the ability to just say, all right, I've taken all this data and I've made it very easy to digest. Here you go. And they're going to pick it up and run with it, as quickly as they can. So I think the Copilot for security, the EAP, has been going on for a while. We've got the GA coming up April 1st. So if that's of interest, contact your account team. But it's a cool tool that will upskill your folks.
I think, so, and I think you touched on a great part there. I think I was in a podcast recently, or I was on a customer. No, it was actually an internal call. I believe, is it true that we received like up to 8 trillion daily signals? Is that right?
That number fluctuates, but it's
I'm sure.
last time it was like 65 trillion. I think it's somewhere in the 80 trillion now. It goes up.
and again, mimicking what you said, Greg, it releases the pressure, right? I think being a CISO is incredibly pressurizing. Having, I mean, for some of our majors, for all our customers, right? At the end of the day, we have investors or leadership to answer to in any means, way, or form. That leadership being external, internal. At the end of the day, leadership are even, shareholders, as far as I'm concerned. So a huge amount of pressure on them, knowing, are they going to be in the news tomorrow? And again, that's
a valid concern too.
Huge,
absolutely,
totally. I mean, it's share price, right? Share price. I mean, it's what you hear a lot. And with that, having an additional tool, a smarter tool, or doesn't even need a Swift shop. Doesn't even need a shift swap, is remarkable. I'm really looking forward to seeing how we expand in that space and how we really, I think, can create success stories. I think success stories speak volumes, and just seeing some of those success stories that are going to be that are going to flourish from from the relationships that we already have.
Yeah, because honestly, I mean, this is kind of a good segue into the next question. But again, when we're talking about security, we're talking about these signals that come in, and we're talking about the logs from a wide variety of tools. The numbers that we're seeing as Microsoft, the entity, as was mentioned, it's either 60 or 80, whatever it's grown to, trillion. I mean, these are numbers that humanity on their own simply can't comprehend, they can't digest, they can't count. And if you try and do that, you're going to be pigeonholed into one tool, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. Like it's not feasible. So I guess where I'm leaning towards is we're selling a a service of tools, a stack of tools, which I guess, the E3, the E5, and we're selling a stack of security. Now, if you compare that to the old approach of going best of breed, and you've been in IT for 20 plus years, so you've seen what the salesmen have been doing for the last 20 years, and I was part of the problem too. I used to sell point products, and now we're starting to see best of platform approaches versus best of breed approaches. Are you hearing from your customers that they're starting to adopt that best of platform approach versus best of breed approach? Because there are benefits to both, I think, and there are cons to both. And the people that hold one or the other opinions get very opinionated about why they chose what they chose.
Yeah, there's an old saying: if it's broken, don't touch it. Right?
Right.
I think that's a really archaic way of thinking in today's world with regards to how quickly technology is changing, how smarter it's becoming with AI, like we just discussed, with all the options that are available, brings risk, and that risk is typically diminished by keeping as evergreen as possible. Sure, remaining as evergreen as possible is expensive, but so is a breach, right? So is any catastrophe of any description. In fact, I was having this exact conversation with my manager this morning based on the customer that's using legacy SharePoint and legacy Windows Server on-prem. And we are now going through a migration process and initiative to remediate that and obviously move on. So the conversations out there are being had all the time, certainly by myself and other CSAMs that I know. That word evergreen, I always like to refer to it, a tree sheds its leaves every year, right? It's a continual life cycle. Things have to evolve, things have to grow. The roof on my house is going to last 15 years, it's something I can't see. But again, I'm not just going to leave it until something happens.
Right.
We don't be leaving things. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I don't want to live with that kind of target on my back, or not being able to live at night knowing, oh, we didn't do this, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do this, or maybe there's things they didn't even know about. But again, Security Copilot's going to know about everything, right? At least we hope.
Conceivably.
But it's going to use trending. It's going to analyze this analytical data that I'm sure we've been collecting anyway, where we can help customers. We can see trending. It's again being smarter. So I think that's the world we live in today. Everything's based on cost. Sadly, money isn't available always. So what do? Well, we prioritize, and we make the best of a situation where we can reduce that risk as much as possible. Again, to being return on investment, certainly from my side, from your side, Greg, by us partnering together internally, with them partnering with our customers as well.
Yeah, I keep coming back to Security Copilot, but there is insight there, and there is trend identification. So if you haven't seen the demo, it is crazy cool. Just like
I haven't seen it, so after this podcast, let's get together.
Yeah, I mean, it really does do kind of what you just laid out as far as identifying trends. And if you were trying to do that without the assistance of AI, I mean, this could take you hours, if not days, to identify it. And it's basically coming to you and saying proactively, we identified this trend. We think this is an area of concern. we identified some of these other things we don't think are a concern, so you don't need to worry about that. So we would like you to at least consider focusing your attention here. And for somebody that has a smaller team, that's huge. I mean, that is a true value being added by a flip of a switch. And I oversimplify it with that, but I mean, once it's in place, it really is a flip of a switch.
Yeah, and if you think about how IT departments are laid out, you have your internal IT team that is segmented, and a lot of sort of support is obviously reactive, but again, the proactive space, knowing that security co-pilot is going to be acting on our behalf in that fashion, again, it creates peace of mind, doesn't it?
It does, and that brings up another question that we didn't have in the list that we were going to plan to ask here, but you're probably one of the better people to ask. We finished a webinar last week, and part of the topic of discussion during that webinar was when you've got the IT team and you've got the security team, there are things that we as security professionals have to put in place, and I include compliance into that. And as an IT department as a whole, they sometimes look at the security practitioners as slowing progress, or maybe the ones that are responsible for pushing deadlines out. So if you're a developer, your job is to go fast and publish code and meet deadlines. And they're looking at the security practitioners as the people that, are going to put things in place to slow the DevOps team down. They're going to be looking at us to be the ones to push dates, back and deadlines back and really kind of slow their progress. Do you hear from talking to a wide swath of people with inside accounts, is that a real thing? Are people looking at the security practitioners as the speed bumps or the stop signs or the yield signs? Are we viewed in that manner as IT as a whole?
No, I don't think so. I think certainly what I've experienced, our resources, such as yourself, and we always come in with best of breed, or we come into the room with example or what have you. But I don't really feel that's the case. No, I don't really feel as though I feel as though certainly we're trying to guide our internal resources at our customer locations, and I think that they're obviously governed by compliance. They're governed by their resources internally, their leadership based on internal decisions. So no, I don't really feel that's the case with the security topic. In fact, not certainly not from what I've not noticed anyway.
Good. Well, I mean, because that was part of where that dialogue really ended up, was one of the areas that I would like to think that we have evolved to. And when I say evolved, I mean security over the last decade, where we use words like proactive. I think we've gotten to the point where if we're talking about something proactive, that's an area that DevOps can agree on, and that's something that security can agree on, and just really maybe even infrastructure as a whole can agree on. If we're doing something that is proactive, whether it's security or it's updating hardware, whatever the case may be, we should all be able to agree on, if we can do something proactively, that's probably best practice. Nobody wants to be in a reactive state. And as it ties back to security, if you're in a reactive state in security, you've already lost. I mean, we can't.
Yeah. And that's the baseline question: is it why are we being proactive? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Right. Again, it's to protect. Why do we clean our teeth at night and in the morning? To protect. I mean, it's logic.
Yes.
Right. It's logic. And when you remove emotion from logic, it becomes very straightforward.
Very true. Very true. So we're coming up on the time, and we've got one final question that Michael's going to ask, and it's one of these that is a fictional question, so it requires you to put on your creative thinking cap for just a second.
Yeah.
So we're going to ask everybody this season, and we'll see what we get out of this one. So if you had the power to enforce one cybersecurity rule globally, what would it be, and how would you ensure everyone follows it? Second one's probably the more possible.
You say rule, Michael?
Yeah, rule. Yep.
That's a very good question. And you didn't give me any heads up before the call on this.
That would be too easy. Why would we do that?
No, exactly. So, the one rule really to spread across the world is you must put security first. I think that's I lock my door when I leave the house, right?
Yeah.
I used to live in Bermuda, and I never used to lock the front door because that's kind of like the way of the times there. But the way the times have changed in some countries, in the Western world, where you lock your door, right?
Sure.
So I think security is number one. It has to be, to prevent outages, to prevent all of what we discussed today. It's for protection, and that then will, if we're protected, we can operate, we can work, we can continue, we can evolve, we can think about other ways we're going to lock the door, because obviously the people that are trying to get in are changing their ways, windows, whatever, right? So yeah, security is the number one rule, Michael.
Security first comes back to zero trust, right?
Amen.
That's a great answer.
That's awesome. Last season, and that was calendar year 23, we asked the same question 12 different episodes or 11 different episodes, and then the 12th episode was a culmination of all those same questions being asked. So hopefully we can do the same thing for 2024.
Absolutely.
So one, thank you for taking some time out of your time today, and
thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was a fun conversation. If somebody is interested in getting in touch with you as a CSAM, how would they go about doing that? LinkedIn or email? Or what's the best way to get in touch?
Absolutely. LinkedIn. Yep. I'm very on LinkedIn daily.
Okay.
So it's obviously a tool that we use heavily here at Microsoft. And the LinkedIn office is actually just downstairs, and at the Atlantic Yards campus here in Atlanta. So I have a lot of resources there at LinkedIn. So yeah, LinkedIn's a great tool just to really, bring the world together in this corporate sense.
Perfect. Well, Simon, thank you so much for your time,
thanks,
and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
Thanks, Greg. Bye, Michael.
Thanks.